All right, let's pause here and take a moment and talk about this man, Mauricio Shogun Hua, who didn't announce in the cage that he was retiring. We all knew going into this event that this would be his last fight. So what do you guys got to say about the career, legendary career of Shogun?
Omar, you were I, sir.
I'll go first for this one. I mean, we touched on it a little bit last week, but, Shogun was some of my earliest memories of MMA. Definitely some of my earliest videos of Pride and kind of what that era was about. And it was definitely, that was I think, prime Shogun, right? Like the UFC and the rule set there kind of took a lot of tools away from what made Shogun such a beast in Pride and in general, and made him a champion. But I mean, I loved Shogun for forever. I used to play him in the video game all the time. I loved watching him fight. The man is a warrior. Every time he goes in, it's guaranteed to be some kind of slugfest, for better or worse. Gave us those Dan Henderson fights, which they both probably left shit in the cage both times they were in there. I mean, it's hard. I keep thinking about the fact that we've been watching MMA for so long that there are guys who have probably started watching MMA 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
That's what I was about to say.
And, they really didn't get a chance to see, the best versions of Shogun. But what I do love is that he has such a large legacy and such a large fan base that if you do want to go back and watch, you can really see what Shogun was all about and kind of what impact he had. And I think the MMA world would have been a very, very different place without Shogun Hu in the mix.
Mark?
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that point that you just made, which is that I hope newer MMA fans understand how good this man was. And this is my struggle as I get older here with a lot of these guys who were once killers, who get viewed differently by newer fans because they come into the game kind of as these legends are fading away, and they don't really fully understand what these guys once were. And I get it. That's natural. But I will get on a soapbox and make sure everyone knows, because the Shogun Hua who's been fighting for, I don't even know what, the last 5, 6, 7 years, like, that ain't Shogun Hua. Like, the legend of Shogun Hua began in 2003 in Pride. I said last week he was a teenager. I was wrong. I think he was 20. And it ran from 2003 to like 2010, 11 in the UFC. Like, that was his prime. It was a long time ago. This man just kept going and hung for a while. But that was the prime. When he joined Pride, he rattled off, if you take away the one loss he had due to injury, 12 consecutive wins, and never lost in Pride, other than the one loss due to injury. In those wins, he beat Akihiro Gono, who was a factor back then. He finished Rampage. He beat Little Nog, who was an animal at that time. That's another guy who, by the time he got to the UFC, people didn't realize how good he was. He finished Overeem. He finished Ricardo Arona. Then he had the injury loss to Mark Coleman because he broke his arm in the middle of the fight. Came back, finished Cyril Diabate, subbed Kevin Randleman, who was an animal, beat Kazuhiro Nakamura, who was a monster, finished Overeem again, and then finally came to the UFC and took a actual loss, which is when Forrest was able to choke him out. But even after that, he goes on to avenge the injury loss to Mark Coleman by finishing him. Then he finishes Chuck. Then he gets beat in a close decision by Machida, comes back to finish Machida, become the UFC champion. Like, this run that I'm describing right now is legendary. Then obviously John Jones enters his world and takes his belt. But John Jones is John Jones. He is the GOAT. We know this. And he responds from that by avenging the only loss he hadn't avenged yet, which is Forrest Griffin, and he knocks him out. And then he has one of the greatest fights of all time with Dan Henderson. So that run that I just described is absolutely legendary. And really, within that whole run, until he got older, which kind of happened after that Henderson war, is when we started to see these signs of him not being the same guy. So like 2012 onward, you could say. In that prime run of whatever that is, 8 years, no one other than John Jones got the best of Shogun Hua. Like, even the one finish from Forrest, he avenged it by knocking him out. Like, he is the elite of the elite, and one day we will make a list of, we always say this, we're going to do this for the different divisions, but, like, if you wanted, you could argue, you could do this for a handful of different guys, but you could argue the best light heavyweight ever, not named John Jones, is Shogun Hua. He was that good.
I think the thing that always makes me laugh about the Forrest Griffin fight, the first one, is no one expected. Forrest Griffin didn't expect to win that fight.
Oh, yeah, that was a wild. Yeah.
Like, no one expected him to win that fight. He didn't expect. When he choked out Shogun Hua, no one was more surprised than he was. Yeah. Shogun was on the floor like, bro, what did I just do? What just happened right now? Yeah. Oh, but like, that might have been at that point probably one of the largest upsets they had up until then.
For sure. That was a big one.
Yeah.
What a legend, man. End of an era.
The last guy with Pride experience in the UFC, I'm pretty sure, on the current UFC roster.
Oh, is that it? Is that the end of Pride?
I think. Obviously, we have
Fedor. No, baby. Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz is still in the mix.
Well, okay, he fought once in Pride, but it
Come on, baby.
That's the
go-go. That's the go-go Plata. It counts. Don't do that. I know,
but it was in the U.S. It wasn't Japan Pride.
One of the most disgusting submissions of all fucking time.
All right, but my point is, he was not a Pride fighter. He just participated in one event when they came to the U.S.
Listen, it's not a badge. You get a badge.
Yeah, all right. He's got a badge. He doesn't have like a membership card though.